Guys, it's Penelope in London, and what I'm going to do is read some stuff on Uranus, which went retrograde yesterday and will be until January. And what we have is that it's going to go, it's gone retrograde, and we've got it's gone retrograde at 10 degrees of Taurus. So you need to look at where Taurus is in your own chart, and then it will remain until January the 1st, 2021, where it's going to go back to 6 degrees of Taurus, and then it will go forward again. So I'm going to do this little lesson, so that you can understand the planets a bit more and how they work. Here are some key words for Uranus, so you get an idea of what Uranus is about. It's about breakthrough, breakdown, change. It can be chaos, creativity, a desire for change. It's about detachment, and it's where we can be eccentric. It's also to do with our electrical system in our body, our nervous system. It can be excitement, where we experiment, where we're extreme. It's ultimately about freedom. It's where we want freedom and our future expectations, and where we're genius. It's our higher mind. It is the higher octave of Mercury. It's where we can have impatience, where we want independence and individuality. It's also innovation and inspiration, inventive, liberation, and where we don't want to conform, and where we're original, and where we can feel like we're an outsider. We don't want to be part of something, so we detach, where we're rebellious and restless and revolutionary. And it's also to do with our science and social awareness, sudden changes, technology, and truth like out of nowhere, and unexpected things happening. And it's the universal mind, and it can be unpredictable and upheaval as well. But there's some good stuff here, but we've all been a bit shocked by what's gone on of late. It's also to do with being eccentric and detached, and extremism, and where we can be antisocial. So if we look at this chart that I've got in front of me right now, that you can see, and hopefully I'll get my pointers so you can see better here. Okay, so Uranus at the moment is at 10 degrees Taurus, and it's just gone retrograde. Now it's going to fall differently, depending on your chart. It's going to fall in different houses. This is the rising sign currently in the UK at this time. Uranus is where we're looking for, change. Ultimately, it's where we want big changes in our life. And as we study our own chart, we can see how that's working for us individually. So Uranus, the energy can be intense, and its feelings can be of immediate and dramatic changes that are needed in our own lives. And Uranus will trigger changes. You can see it's here, Uranus. And also I would like to point out at this point that, as these planets move through, at the moment we've got Mars squaring Jupiter, Pluto and Saturn up here. And there's a lot of energy, fire energy that's going on at the moment within us. We've also, it's about integrating and synthesizing the past and our long-term memory. It's to do with our long-term memory. And it's also about the future. And it symbolizes, what we want for our freedom as well. So Uranus, we can see it as innovation, individuality, and freedom. It's also about our own uniqueness and where we want to be free, not just collectively, but personally. And it's also like a wake-up call for us, which can be a good thing. It's like we might be stagnant and stuck in something, and it will shock us into healthy change. Uranus in Taurus, there can also be mental trauma. This is where mental trauma can occur. We all have this because we all go through shocks at times. We can see this with COVID and what's going on in the world at the moment, with a lot of anger coming up. This is very much to do with the Mars square, which is going on for quite the rest of this year, because on the 9th of September, Mars is going to go retrograde. It's where we can be forced to change our value systems with Uranus, and we will look at our values, and very much, because it's in Taurus, it's to do with money. It's where we can experience sudden loss, but also, light bulb moments and then being able to solve things. it can change everything that's cherished, that we hold dear to us as well. And it helps us to realign and modify to a new reality and a new way of being in the collective together. And, this is a good thing. We're at an evolutionary point of massive change. And what COVID has done, it's, begun to break down patriarchal systems so that we can restructure ourselves. So if you see the Jupiter, Pluto and Saturn, they were all at 22 degrees on the 12th of January 2020, and this was before COVID started, and then Mars came along at that time and went over the symbolism, and it began to open and change things. It began to trigger. It's a trigger point when Mars goes over planets, because it's pushing us to new evolutionary and makes us conscious as well to take new action. So we need to look at any stressful aspects that we have towards our own Uranus as this goes retrograde in our chart. For me, it's happening in my 6th house, and I've been able to pull up the aspects to my own chart, and that's a good thing to do for yourself so you can understand how it's working for you. So we do know that it's about liberation, freedom, and also deconditioning. So all of our early conditioning that goes on in childhood, the first 7 years, we don't really think for ourselves. We're heavily conditioned, and a lot of the conditioned beliefs are carried through as we go through life, and we hang on to them. And Uranus can help us to break free of these things that we've been told, and belief systems as well. It can shock us into new belief systems. We do have, at the age 42, depending on all of us, I've had mine because I was born in 1966, we all can have a Uranus opposition, which is where and then 84, when we're 42, when we're 84, roughly, we have a Uranus return. And generally, most people live to, their 80s now. So we all, many people will have that. We've got something called the Uranus generations. I haven't got the dates here, but Uranus takes 7 years, I believe, to go through each sign. So there's a generation, for instance, if you're born now, you're going to be in the generation of Uranus in Taurus. If somebody's been born, in the last last year, as an example. Prior to that, babies coming in would have been Aries, and they would have been Uranus Aries. So it changes, and we're different generations. This is about electricity. It's the currents that run through our body, it's also working with our energy, and we need to process at the moment, because we've got this Mars going on and Uranus. We really need to keep ourselves grounded and do body work, whatever that means. It doesn't mean, going to the gym and working out. It means really tapping into your own body and feeling what you feel and keeping yourself balanced. There can be a lot of, some unexpected and new possibilities with this. So it's, it's good as well. I did read some of Jeff Wolf-Green, because I do Evolutionary Astrology. And he mentioned about this is rebellion about being told what to do. It places an emphasis on the need to experiment with the reality structures and different forms in order to determine through experimentation that which is most reflective of ourselves. It's where we inwardly contemplate different possibilities, to reflect and to brood if necessary. This is when Uranus is retrograde. Some of us will have Uranus retrograde at birth, because Uranus does go retrograde once a year for 5 months. So you can look at your chart and see if it's got a symbol of R on it. I'll show you my chart. It will look like this. So it will, on your chart, you'll see if any planets are retrograde, you're going to see this R symbol here. So that's worth looking at, because planets, when we're born with them retrograde, they're working in a different way. And when Jeff Wolf-Green points out that when Uranus is retrograde, this points to Neptune. And Uranus retrograde is about the individuation and process. And it's to liberate us from consensus. So consensus is where everybody follows along and, basically, doesn't question the rules and so much. It's where we want to be different from another. And every human being on Earth is a bit different. We all look different. None of us are identical. Even twins are not completely identical. We're all different. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and it's in the 11th house. It's the 11th house of the chart. So we've all got Aquarius in our chart. We've all got Uranus in our chart, and we've all got an 11th house. And for myself, I will show you that my third house is ruled by Aquarius, which is, the third house is also to do with Gemini. So this means this shows me how my mind works and my communication. So you can also look at what house your Uranus is. Very important. So we can also generally not want to, when we've got Uranus retrograde, at birth, we're not interested in being of groups. We're more wanting to be our own person, honoring our own individuality, because we're not interested in dogma. But we can join groups that are of like-minded, that aren't, like over-popular. He does mention also, I've heard him say about repression is where, where we can be repressed as well. And Uranus can help us, shock us into getting us out of that being repressed, and long-term memory, and also from past lives. And even in the womb, imprints, early imprints, how we're all affected. We've also got at retrograde is where we get to objectify and we gain knowledge. So it's where we go inward and we're able to objectify ourselves. If we're born with a retrograde Uranus, we do that naturally. It's almost like we're not so much in our bodies, we're almost like objectifying life and seeing it from a different angle. The transiting Uranus retrograde, the meaning is it's about inner change. When it goes retrograde, it's our response to the things that are taking place and our external changes that are going on as well, and allowing us to reflect where we want to change. And it's our wanted change, and it's where we've been trying to change something and nothing's happening, and we've had enough, and we sort of will get insights. And our transit Uranus retrograde helps us with the internal change and changing our attitude and our behaviors, so that we can have, the desired change becomes possible. It's about personal freedom. There's a lot here, isn't there? But this is worth listening to because it will really help you to understand what Uranus is up to. It's about revolution, and, it's about ignorance or our innocence as well. That will show up. And Uranus retrograde will bring the higher mind awareness in. It's where we have insights and we can see, where there's error and such like. The Pluto aspects, when this comes in when Pluto aspects Uranus later this year, this can be quite fear-based as well. But there are softer aspects going on at the moment to Uranus, and we can look to those, and we can see that, Uranus here is in a sextile to Venus at the moment. So we've got some softness going on. And as we understand ourselves through our chart, we're able to gauge, and objectify our lives. So we get to know ourselves better. So we don't, the planets aren't doing anything to us. They're symbolism and cycles. With Venus sextile to Uranus, that's about love and affection and excitement, and our intuition and making quick decisions as well. So let's see, let me tell you a bit about this chart. I do want to point out that Mars square Saturn, so we can see Mars here squaring Saturn here, and then the Mars is square to Pluto, Mars square to Pluto there, and then also where Mars is hitting Jupiter as well. And then we've got the Uranus at the moment is sextiling to Jupiter, so we can begin to see that it's not all, it's not all scary stuff. There's, we're flowing, we're going in and out of our emotional states. And also we can understand at the moment that with the squares, we can see there's a lot of protests going on at the moment in the world. We saw this in Russia, we've seen it in different parts of the world. In the UK, we just saw this with the education system, and then the anger as well with people being restricted. People went on holiday to France and they've been ordered back, so parts of Europe are closing. We're all trying to work out what our future holds with our money, which is very much Taurus, Uranus in Taurus, because Taurus is to do with our money and our needs. So we're restructuring right now. And the last time, I think it was 1934, I could be wrong. I did write it down somewhere, but when Uranus was last in Taurus, which was a social restructure of, monetary and our needs as a society. So now what I want to show you, I'm going to come out of this. I'm going to stop share and I'm going to share my chart. So you can see this. I'm going to give you an example of how this is working out for me, and how you would possibly look at your own chart as well. So I'm not going to go too much into detail on but I will give you a bit of information that helps you to, maybe look at your own chart in a way that gives you some help. So let me show you this. I'm going to get my pointer again. Okay, so there's my Uranus. It's on my MC with Pluto and Isis, which is an asteroid there. So we can see here that my Pluto is conjunct with Uranus, and the Pluto Uranus was in the 60s babies. Pluto takes 245 years on average to move around a chart. Uranus takes 84. So this was in the 60s when the pill was invented and there was free love, and now all of us that were born at this time are in our 50s. So, this is where we're shaping the world now. The people that are in the 50s are helping people break free of limitations by our own knowledge and various other things that are going on. But I'm going to tell you that my Uranus at the moment transit is in my 6th house. So this is to do with my work. I'm going to run through the houses briefly, what it means, wherever Uranus is in your chart, but aspects are very important in astrology because that gives more of the story of what's going on. So my Uranus is semi-square to my Chiron, to my natal Chiron. So my transit, you can see here, this is my transit Uranus, and it's at 10 degrees. And my Chiron is at 25 degrees. So this is a 45 degree, which makes it a semi-square. So this is helping me work on my wound and break free of limitations around my wound somehow. But, it works. There's some tension with this going on. So that for me first happened on the 30th of July. And then the next hit, it will be on the 31st of August, because it's going to go retrograde. And then again, it will go forward, and then it's going to hit it again. So as planets move backwards and forwards, you can get a double hit or triple hit sometimes. And then in June next year, the Uranus is going to semi-square my Saturn, which is here as it goes forward. So the planets are always moving from a different angle. And I'd like you to look at your own chart to maybe look at this, or if you need help, I do read charts. So if I look at my Saturn transit here, and then I look to my natal Uranus, which is in the 9th house on the MC, I've got a sesquare, which is up here. I think that's 135 degree. And again, that's tension. And then I've also got to Jupiter, a sesquare going on as well. The degree of that is 135 degree. So from here to these planets up there. So again, there's a brilliant book, and it's called Planets in Transit, but you also want, by Robert Hand. The other thing you can do is you can check out aspects and degrees, and educate yourself on that if you go to Wikipedia and just put in to understand aspects and the degrees. Or again, if you want a lesson from me, you can book me to do that with the link below that I'm going to put. My North Node in March 2021, the transiting North Node will square my Uranus, so that will bring, changes for me as well. And there's never, any fear with planets. We just need to know our, emotional state, because it's about how we're feeling. So if we go to the 1st house, wherever that is for you, it's about reinventing yourself. I'm going to keep that really short explaining this, but the 1st house is really about where you're reinventing yourself and your image, and where you want to be seen. When it's retrograde, you're going to be looking at the way you view yourself and how others view you. And on your journey. I'm keeping this, this could be much deeper, but I'm just giving you an idea. So if it's in the second house, if Uranus is in your second house and transit, then it's about your possessions and your security and your self-worth. And it's about developing and looking at new ways and valuing yourself and your money and your security. You're looking at what makes you feel secure. Uranus in your third house is about communication. So when it goes retrograde, it's looking at where you're blocked, and your uniqueness in your in the way you communicate as well. And it's also to do with siblings, the third house, and short journeys. And it's about how we deliver, our thoughts as well. We could be shocking to people, or but we want to look at how we're handling that. In the fourth house, you would be looking at your home and family, and it's our deepest sense of self, and it's also our ego and our emotional body. And it can be challenging to our emotions, but with it retrograde, it can be feel a bit tested. We could be tested with the home and family thing, and looking at how we feel about home and family. It could be home, where we're living in the world as well, how we want to live. Uranus in the fifth house is where we have it's about fun, creativity, children, and our inner child as well, and how we are creative and how we want to self-actualize. So when we have this going on there, we're going to be looking at our creativity, and we could be shocking and shock ourselves. It could be, we could be doing creativity that we've never experienced before and find out something about ourselves. In the sixth house, it's about our work, and that's where it's happening for me. In my sixth house, it's going to go retrograde, and then it will go forward again in January. But the sixth house is about service, and it's about, how we're being of service in the world, and it's about our drive and how we organize ourselves and health and routines. And also when it goes retrograde, we're going to look, how am I using my gift in the world? It's like sorting out, and it can be light bulb moments of, wow, I can do this, or I can be of service this way. And it gives us a different perspective on our work as well. It can get us out of being stagnant, which is a good thing. So it can work in many different ways. But again, always look at your aspects. Uranus in the seventh house, if it's in your seventh house, this is about partnerships, and it's our romantic relationships as well. And it's where we learn to balance, and where we're equals and we're being fair, and how we deal with others. So, and with it going retrograde, it's where we're going to reevaluate our relationships and make adjustments. And we may want to be free, and we're going to look at how we can be free of something, or we might start a short-term new relationships with people. So it's about where we're committed. It's about our commitment to others as well. So if we want to break free and where we feel like we're being held back, we might just end things, or we might just start things without, that may not last, because they're just, because of the nature of Uranus in retrograde in the seventh house. In the eighth house, it will work, this is about our merging. It's about birth, death, taxes, transformation, where we merge with others and share. It's to do with our shadow and our unconscious, and self-inquiry here, looking at ourselves and objectifying. And Uranus will, in the eighth house, will want us to break free of where we're blocked and where we've been stagnant, where we've been holding on to things. So there could be shocks around that, or transformation. Uranus in the ninth house would apply to, where we're philosophical, and to do with spirituality, and also to do with our religious beliefs and the bigger picture, and also dogma and travel, overseas travel, and education. So we might have an adventure whilst it's going on, that surprises us, or we might get a different perspective on things. And we might get to the truths about what's blocking us as well. So, it's a good thing. We can look at this in a positive way. In Uranus in the 10th house in the chart it's about our career and our public image and our reputation, how we're seen by the outside world, and our perception of how we want to be seen. And this is about our career as well. And, you know, so we can hear it can be about computers actually, and how we use technology. So Uranus will ask us to look here, will ask us to look at our current work and our image in our work life, and we might find new ways on our path. And we could also shift into, you know, digital computers where we can work anywhere. So it can work, you know, new business and inventions and a new career built in that way. In the 11th house, and we've got Uranus, it's friends, hopes, dreams, and humanity. It's about the collective, and it's our future. It's the world, groups, ideas, and our vision and visionary. And Uranus here will break up our conventional ideas about humanity and begin to inspire us as well, and different ways of seeing and sharing. And in the 12th house, which is the final house, it would be that we're looking at spirituality in our subconscious, and it's our dreams. It's beyond this realm, beyond the five senses, because we've got the ruler of the 12th house is Neptune also. So we also always integrate this information. It's never one thing, one meaning. And it's a desire where we seek something more. It might be an unfulfilled dream and expansion of consciousness and our soul. And in the 12th house, it's where you know, we can look at our blocks on our spiritual growth, and also where we're unique and what's preventing our growth spiritually as well. And we might get insights there, and we can be encouraged here to let go of things we no longer need, and that can happen very suddenly, and it's what's going on behind the scenes. So that's it. I've done Uranus for you. I hope you've enjoyed this video and it's been educational. And if you want to have a chart reading with me, I'm doing $25 through the end of August. So, you know, feel free to contact me. I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.